What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride and groom do for their wedding? You know those slightly off looking Mickey and Minnie Mouse you see in New York City? Yeah. They showed up for the first dance because the bride loved Disney. The entire room was forced to watch bride and groom dance alongside a deformed Mickey and Minnie. And halfway through they switched, so the bride was dancing with Mickey and the groom with Minnie. I've never seen such a strange combination of stifled laughter and horrified stares. Dated a girl in my 20s and went to her friend's wedding in upstate New York. In the middle of the service the minister's cell phone rang. He answered. It was God. God wanted to talk to the groom. Conversation lasted a couple minutes. Then the ceremony continued. Did everyone laugh, or was it meant to be serious? I mean, if it wasn't a joke and was an actual call from God, I think it would have been pretty big news. When I was 11 my cousin got married for the third time. I never really liked her because A, she was 37 when I was 11. We didn't have a lot in common and B, she was pretty full of herself. The wedding itself was fine. Pretty boring but fine. Then we get to the reception. We were told we had to sit down as soon as we got there. Some people found it weird, but I've only been to one other wedding before this. Her other marriages were when I was little. No kids were allowed at her weddings, so I didn't think anything of it. The bride and groom then make a huge dramatic entrance and everyone awkwardly clapped for them as they strutted around the room with actual crowns on their heads. The bride then gets the microphone and hands it to her mom and asks her to say something she loves about the bride. She then tells her mom to pass it on and says she wants everyone in the room to say one thing they absolutely love about the bride. Not the bride and groom, not their relationship, just the bride herself. It was super awkward. Her humility. The fact that she's willing to keep throwing weddings and feed the whole family. The minister, or pastor, used to date the bride and gushed about how wonderful she was. Told the groom, if he ever died not to worry, he'd take care of her. I was shell-shocked. I so wished I could think of a reason to ask the couple for a copy of the video of their wedding, but couldn't quite find a legit one. OMG, why would they choose this officiant? I hear the bride had an in with him. So let's see. Groom changed who his best man was and didn't tell the original BM until the start of the ceremony. Bride and groom asked a guest to bartend the reception. At the reception, groom dirty danced with his stepmom. Full hands on ass. Bride and groom hold their wedding party up to do a choreographed dance to Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, but didn't give them any pre-warning or teach them the dance. That song is 5 minutes long. Wedding was at a scenic boarding school campus during the summer. Guests were told dormitories were complimentary to stay in. Guests were not told there would be no bedding provided or account in the building. Groom later reviled everyone who stayed in a dorm asking for money. Same bride and groom chose another friend's wedding reception as the right setting to yell at a third pair of mutual friends for not including them in their wedding party. This was all one wedding? This was Marizo, the bride's family. One of my first classmates to get married. We were 19, had a small reception. Mostly family and friends from high school. Nothing wrong with that. They decided to auction off the garter belt, and whoever won took it off the bride. Most of us were poor college students, so the only people bidding were her dad and uncles. It was super uncomfortable. Gross. I hate the whole garter thing in general. My cousin did the garter thing at her wedding, and it was so awkward. Also, I get the impression that she didn't even want to do it in the first place. I wouldn't be surprised if her tiger mom forced her into it. None of the groomsmen wanted it. When the groom threw it, they had to throw it a second time, and who I assume was the best man acted over enthused and caught it, while the others still wanted nothing to do with it. At least he took one for the team and tried to save the day, but it was still so awkward. Deleted. I think I went to this wedding right after the officiant asked if anyone objects to speak now or hold your peace. Did a dog start crazily barking? Yeah. They also gave many bottles of booze as table gifts and the mog took all of them. It was something else. Edit. I have no idea why the poster deleted. His/her original post said that the groom handwrote long intimate sappy vows that he read from, and then after his monologue the bride giggled and said ditto. To be fair, that is not exactly how it went down at the wedding I went to, but pretty dang close. He/she then replied to the above post I made by saying that there was a kiddo who ate confetti thinking it was food and threw up everywhere. As far as I know, that did not happen at the wedding I went to. I'm so sorry everyone, but there is no internet meeting Kismet today, at least not for me and the now redacted poster. I'm a little worried that there are at least 2 relationships in the world where the groom was seemingly way more invested than the bride. I prefer cute cringe over sad. Deleted. Giving horrible vows and speeches. A part of my family has the habit to use any family gathering as a moment to remember loved ones who died. That's not a comfortable habit for me, but to each his own. However, it becomes very weird when wedding speeches and even vows start to include great uncles who died more than a year ago, and the only people who actually knew him are my grandparents. Yes, the vows, and not even in an interesting way, but just if only Uncle Barney could have still been alive while we are getting married. To be honest, our entire family is horrible at giving speeches. There's 2 brothers, one of whom is my dad, and 2 sisters. My parents can only make joke speeches. The uncle and his family make dry lists of things they do. For example, his wedding speech for his son was a 10-minute monologue about renovating the couple's kitchen. One aunt can only boast about achievements their family members have gained. If there's no achievements, there's no speeches. The 4th is the one with the death speeches. Mind sharing some of your parents' joke speeches? That is very difficult, as they speak Dutch. But for example, for my brother's wedding they made a long poem where every sentence rhymed on my sister-in-law's name. When we were kids, they would also rewrite songs for us to perform. It's a tie between my sister breaking her knee, seriously, at her own wedding, dancing to the Cotton-Eyed Joe, and my stepsister having her reception at an honest-to-God truck stop while 6 months pregnant. In her defense, the food was good, but wow was it weird walking through a gas station in formal wear. Please elaborate on the truck stop reception. Mayo, I did not think anyone would enjoy this that much. So my stepsister was engaged before she got pregnant, but they moved it up so she could be on her husband's insurance when the baby was born. For some unknown reason she latched onto this weird ass truck stop restaurant my family goes to sometimes for late dinners, since it's open 24 hours. The food was buffet style, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, salad, etc. We did have a private room which was very weird that it existed. The only way to get into the restaurant is to walk through the attached gas station. It felt very redneck considering how non-redneck my stepsister typically is. I officiated that wedding though, so I guess I can't judge too harshly. At the beginning of the reception, we all had to stand up and sing the national anthem. To be clear, this was in another country I'd never been to a wedding in before. So I thought, okay, maybe this is just a tradition I've never heard of before here. Then I told this to other people, and they were all like, no, that's just really weird. Also, at that wedding the father of the groom ended his speech with what I'm sure he thought was an amazing joke on how it's easier to build a bridge to Hawaii than to understand what a woman is thinking. It would have been awkward enough had the man not also been standing between his ex and current wife as he was delivering it. Also, at that wedding the father of the groom ended his speech with what I'm sure he thought was an amazing joke on how it's easier to build a bridge to Hawaii than to understand what a woman is thinking. Was this that stupid genie joke? I went to a meeting at my workplace once where the very awkward dude leading the meeting made this joke in a conference with hundreds of women attending, and it did not go well. In case anyone else was wondering about the joke, link jokeindex.com/joke asp JOKE equals 3529 link jokeindex.com/joke asp JOKE equals 3529. And yeah, it's a pretty lazy one. I wasn't a guest. I was working the wedding. The bride got drunk and sat on some other dude's lap for 2 hours and flirted with him while the groom sat by himself at the head table with a defeated look on his face. This might be the most depressing one yet. Does dying on the inside count regarding the until death do us part clause? Not wedding but engagement ceremony. They reenacted a scene from an old romantic film about 2 lovers in 1800s. In front of like 300 people. Sorry, engagement ceremony, what's that? A way to spend money you don't realize you need, and to invite others to spend money on gifts, to replenish your out-of-pocket costs for hosting the event in the first place. They sang their vows to each other. Neither had a singing voice. Vows were generally batshit crazy, like submissive in the bedroom, and not asking about where she was going. The auto-tune microphones were a terrible idea. Their vow songs shared a chorus, and it was awful, and they expected the guests to sing along with the chorus. The vows singing lasted 20 minutes. Pure cringe. Everclear, my friend. I will buy you a garden where your flowers can bloom. Bride entered to Brotherhood soundtrack blasting on boombox. Civil service that lasted a few minutes starting at around 1 PM. She leaves to same blasting Brotherhood soundtrack. The mother announces that the reception starts at 5:30 PM. There is no food and no bar, but trays of dessert bars will be served. We are also told the venue is locked until then, so there is no place to wait. My girlfriend and I leave with a crowd of people to across the street to an Irish pub for drinks. A bit of a party breaks out there. We all get told to knock it off and come wait back at the venue in the hall. So we sit in the hall on the carpet for a few hours without drinks or dinner. Bride and groom arrive and enter the venue to an honor guard of floor hockey players wearing hockey jerseys and holding sticks above their heads like swords at a royal wedding. More Brotherhood music, of course. Place emptied out pretty quick as people either left to go back to the pub or to the fast food place a bit further away. Our dinner was lemon squares and a can of Coke from a vending machine in the lobby. Funny stuff. Who told you to leave the pub? And why on earth did you have to wait for hours? Yeah. Why would anyone listen to that direction? If you tell me I have to sit and wait in a hallway like a kid in timeout, instead of having fun at a bar, I'd specifically not want to go to the reception anyway. Not the couple. The pastor kept saying our Heavenly Father, Daddy God, while marrying them. You know it's official when the pastor is making sure daddy is involved. Oh, I have 2 exclamation point. 1 point. The bride decided to sing as she walked down the aisle. She was not a particularly talented singer, and she was singing over a Carrie Underwood song, so we could all hear the original vocal track. She finished walking about halfway through the song, and then stood there and sang the rest of the song at the groom, and all we could do was sit there and watch. 2. Different wedding. They began the wedding with the groom playing an out-of-tune guitar and singing to the bride. They were sitting on chairs in front of everyone. Legit 400 people, and the bride was clearly uncomfortable, which made everyone else uncomfortable. That wedding also included a foot washing ceremony, and when the bride put her shoes back on, she tripped on her dress and fell flat on her face. They hadn't done the vows yet, and the ceremony stopped for 20 minutes to deal with the nosebleed she gave herself. Tell me the Carrie Underwood song was Before He Cheats. That's a great wedding song. Jesus, take the wheel. Not the bride and groom, but the bride's father. I was the best man. They married young, after she fell pregnant. It wasn't planned, but they clearly loved each other, and it was the right thing for them to do in their eyes, both Christian. Anyway, come the wedding day, and sat next to the bride's father at the reception, and I can see Hez looking at his prepared speech repeatedly. I can see phrases like not ideal, would preferred not to welcome you into the family in these circumstances, etc. Just before the groom gets up to give a speech, the bride's father excuses himself to nip to the loo, leaving his speech behind. Him not ashamed to say I swiped it, and then pleaded ignorance when he returned. In the end he stood up and muttered a few words about love, and then sat down. I never told the groom, and I'm happy to say they're still happily married 20 years later. Dude, you are the best man. That's the type of thing a legendary best man does. Your friend made a good choice. You were totally there for them on their big day. Invite all their Facebook friends and expect 700 people, and like less than 100 show up. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.